Hello, and welcome back to the MSU Wealth Management Podcast. My name is Stephen Bowe, and today I had the opportunity to host Financial Advisor Connor Bauserman. Connor got his start with a degree in financial planning at Olivet College and has since been dedicated to helping clients navigate their financial futures with confidence. As an employee of Preferred Financial Group, we talked all about what his day-to-day looks like and how his services are able to reach a wider demographic through PFG. We hope you enjoy. So, hey guys, welcome back to the MSU WMA podcast. My name is Stephen Bowe, and today I'm here with Connor Bauserman at PFG, also plastered all over the walls at the job I currently work at over at Consumers Professional Credit Union. Connor, am I getting that last name pronounced right? How are you doing today?
That is right. Yep. It's technically, from what I've been told, it's Bosserman, but we go by Bauserman. I always
Okay,
have.
absolutely. So, I mean, I just love to hear about this Bauserman family line here about Connor
Mhm.
himself. Who is Connor? Where did you go to school? How long ago? How'd you wind up over at Preferred Financial Group, and what's interested you about wealth management? Just give us a little short blurb about yourself.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about me. Been a financial advisor for a little over 8 years now. Married to my wife Nicole for going on 7 years this fall, and we have three kids. We live in Battle Creek, Michigan, which is where I'm at most of the time. Our current office is kind of spread out between Portage, Michigan, Portage, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, and then all the CPCU locations as well. Um, but when I'm not in front of a computer or in front of some clients, I tend to go play some golf, go for bike rides, and then we like to go camping during the fall with my family. As for the second question, I'll kind of start from the beginning, just to kind of give a synopsis of where I came from and how I got to where I am today. I did a job shadow with a financial advisor in high school. At that time, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. A lot of my family were in the trades, and so I was going to be the first kind of male in our family to go to college. And I was already kind of interested in finances and pretty good with maths. And but after that job shadow, it kind of helped me get some direction of where I wanted to go. At that time, I was looking to run track in college. I had a visit with Olivet College, which is now the University of Olivet, and they had a financial planning degree as well as like a top-notch insurance program. So thought it was kind of a perfect fit. I got to be able to run track and then kind of get into the industry that I was looking at. So I double majored in both insurance and financial planning at that time. And then during my college years, I had two different internships, one in Lansing, kind of working for a traditional broker dealer, kind of a sales role. And then the second one was working with the smaller RIA, which is kind of who I took on where I started my career as a financial advisor coming out of school. When I started, I was kind of the portfolio manager for the RIA, and that job morphed pretty quickly over time into enrollment meetings for 401ks, meeting with individual clients, doing annual reviews, creating financial plans for those individuals, and then also the 401k participants. After about 3 years being there, COVID kind of hit, and I had an opportunity to join my father-in-law and my brother-in-law here at Preferred Financial Group, just to be an independent advisor. And then kind of since then, we've been just growing ever since.
Wow, that's actually really awesome because I feel like a lot of advisors I have conversations with, and of course they're all fantastic, but I hear the story often of, I just kind of ended up in this spot, and they tell some
Mhm.
story where, they were a theater major, and, then eventually they started talking to somebody, and then here they are as an advisor. But to hear you being on that fast track towards it is pretty inspiring. It's really cool.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, could you compare the two internships that you had in college? And I don't know if you remember like the differences, or you
hmm
you, you mentioned a salesy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Am I comparing those?
Yeah. I'll be completely transparent and open. My first one, I didn't have a great experience. Not that the people were bad or didn't put any time and effort into me, at least on that level, but for me, it was I was trying to learn about the industry and about what I would be doing on a day-to-day task, and I got to see some of that, but I got kind of the worst end of our job, which was kind of the calling and prospecting part. And it was the old school. You picked up a phone book and called for pretty much all day, 250 calls, tracking calls, what happened, trying to get through gatekeepers. Um, that's not an everyday part, especially if you're maybe if when you're starting, but that's not an everyday job of an advisor. That's kind of the worst part that we do. But then my second internship was more of just like a salaried position that kind of gave me some tasks to do and then encouraged me to just learn and kind of uh, take the job for what it was, but also got to take some steps beyond that and to learn and do more with what I was interested in compared to, hey, this is the job that we need you to do, and that's kind of where we want to put you. So I was really thankful for that second internship because, as I kind of showed, I was in the fast track, I guess you could say. But um, after that first internship, I thought, holy smokes, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go into some other industry, maybe insurance, kind of do a back office, salary gig. But after that second internship, I was like, okay, this is kind of what I thought the job was going to be. And so I was really thankful for that.
Nice, yeah. And I think it's reassuring to hear that even someone who we keep on mentioning this fast track, but even someone who was on that fast track, it still took some time to settle in and be like, okay, this is why it's great, you
For
know.
sure.
So glad you found it. So. Moving on to another question here for you. So, for those of you that don't know, which is quite literally everybody watching this probably, but I work at Consumers Professional Credit Union as a part-time teller, and the way I got introduced to Connor was I kept seeing his name on the TV and on these pamphlets all around the office. And a question I've had for a while is that a Connor move? Did Connor, network with CPCU and get his face all over so that way he can provide services to some of the members over there? Or is that something that your firm kind of sponsors individual advisors and promotes them at other credit unions as they see fit?
Sure. Um, I'll kind of just give you the whole story, I guess, if that makes sense, because I feel like I have to answer the question. But about 3 years ago, we were looking to kind of expand our footprint and then to kind of help me kind of get going, just because I had moved from just being an independent salaried advisor to now kind of creating my own income. And we had already, or still are already servicing another credit union, which is Marshall Community Credit Union. That's where my father-in-law and then my brother-in-law James currently work most of the time. Pat bops around to all the different locations, but at that time, Pat had also had some history of working with other credit unions in the past that eventually just went by the wayside because they had morphed. Maybe they already had an advisor and that type of thing, but we were contacting some different credit unions to kind of offer our expertise. And CPCU at that time was looking to offer the investment services to their members. And so by partnering with them together, like we can offer those services for them to their members, but it allows me to not necessarily have to be an employee of the credit union. So CPCU does not pay me anything. The only way I make money is through the revenues that I generate kind of on my own through the business. And then with those referrals that I get from the credit union, they get a revenue share from what I make. That kind of goes in kind of perpetuity. So if I get a client and continue to pay me for the next 10 years, well, so does CPCU. CPCU earns on that. Um, but I'm also an independent advisor. So, like today, I might be servicing all of my clients, but maybe tomorrow, if I have an appointment in Lansing or Battle Creek or wherever in the branches, I have an opportunity to make more money and then also make money for the credit union. So, it kind of creates a win-win for the credit union because hiring an advisor and paying them a salary and benefits, it's expensive, especially if they're starting from ground zero where you're requiring them to now generate income or generate revenue. It takes a while for them to offset the cost, where kind of from square one, it doesn't cost the credit union anything to offer my services. Um, but then it's a way for them to be in on the game and have some skin in the game and how they make money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's definitely mutually beneficial, which I just, it was so funny to me that I kept on seeing your face, but I never saw you. And so I was just always wondering how that worked.
Yeah.
But
So and also to answer your question a little bit too is as of right now, it's kind of like a solo partnership. We use our brand and our office name, the Preferred Financial Group, but I'm the one that's technically contracted into the credit union. Um, as that continues to grow, if business continues to go well and we continue to grow, and I need more advisors, there's definitely an opportunity for expansion there to add more advisors. But it's a really cool way that we get to service the credit union. One of the big appeals when they were looking for an advisor was that they were looking for somebody who would work with anybody. Um, the credit union has a lot of clients that maybe aren't the high net worth people. And so to say, hey, a lot of advisors will require a minimum if they're kind of doing the similar job, which we don't. We don't have any minimums. Or if they are a part of like a QSO or another program where they're hired in to be able to be there, then again, they have to pay salaries and that type of thing. So it works out pretty well for the credit union and then also for the advisor.
yeah, yeah, I mean, beautifully said. So it sounds like a really good gig for everybody involved. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. Um, I'll ask another question here. So I would love to hear about, I believe you said you graduated college 8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So starting out as an advisor, what was that like for you with those first couple of clients? What did things look like? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were you the bear and the sign that says "Don't wake the bear" behind you?
Mhm.
How did that go for you for those first couple of clients? And um, tell me about now too. What's the difference and how do you approach clients and the new meetings with the first times? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I can remember in the first couple of meetings being surprised at like how much I knew, kind of above the average client. As you start off, you're kind of like thinking, man, I feel like I know a lot, but also I don't feel like I know very much, especially if I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with another advisor. But what I quickly found out though is that you don't have to know everything, but you don't know what you don't know until you run into a case that you haven't had before. Um, and then even today, which is really cool about our job, is that it still happens. We run into cases where we haven't run into before. It's maybe less frequent as when I first started, but you're constantly needing to learn whether that's the new tax codes or new limits or just kind of these one-off crazy scenarios where I haven't had that before. Um, Kind of the big approach that I have today that's different than when I started and how I meet with clients is just I started to meet clients where they are, and that was the big difference when I first started. And what I mean by that is that when we were trained by books, certifications, financial planning softwares, market knowledge, and that type of thing. But we were taught that a client may need to be taking more risk to hit their goals. If the risk scale was 1 to 10, they might need to be an 8 to be able to hit their goals. But what I found is if the client's maybe risk averse, never been in the market before, or hard time stomach the market movements, I've found that a stepping process is the best process. Um, and it's better than just throwing them into the risk and just hoping for the best. The analogy or the story I could give would be like kind of the frog in hot water. If you throw a frog in boiling water, they'll jump right out. But if you boil it slowly, they'll stay in. Um, and what I found as an advisor, and I found this out pretty quick in my career, is that some of the best advisors can help clients do two things really well, and that's get invested and stay invested. Okay, I'll say that again: get invested and stay invested. Great advisors may seem like they can get all these people invested, they can get them into products and so on, but if they're turning around in the first market downturn correction and they're wanting to jump out, okay, well, we maybe haven't put them in the right product. And so what I've tried to find is, hey, I'm going to meet you where you are. If you're risk averse, maybe you've never been in the market before, only like CDs. Okay, let's take a stepping stone approach that hopefully I can get you to that 8 or a 7 on the risk scale, but we're not going to jump right into it right away. But then again, you are going to go through these market cycles, and you might have be even hearing this on the news today, is, the market's kind of in fluctuation and people are wanting to get out. Okay, well, that's the second part of our job. We've got you invested. How can we get you to stay invested?
Yeah, that's awesome. And so what do you say when a client approaches you and they want out and they want to, they see the downturn and maybe they're not obviously as experienced as you might be with
Mhm.
market downturns and upturns. And so, what's the thought process behind calming their worries? Because I know it's a lot harder to be a financial advisor when the markets are down, of course.
Sure. I mean, the conversation's different for each one. Depends if they're lifelong clients or maybe a fairly new client. Again, trying to meet them where they're at. And a big thing that we try to look at is their time horizon. And what I mean by that is, when do they need to start taking money, or if they're going to be taking money soon, or maybe they're already taking money. That might be a way that we can kind of finagle the conversation. So if they're saying, "Hey, I'm not going to retire for another 15 years." Okay, well, maybe you can take a little bit more risk by leaving it in and letting the market ride than maybe someone who's saying, "Hey, I'm taking income next year, I'm retiring." Okay, well, maybe we'll take a different approach. Again, we try not to just jump out of the market. We just might try to find somewhere that they can get into the market, maybe have some kind of a buffer there. Maybe they move down in risk a little bit, but they're still in the market. Um, and then for a lot of those clients that are currently taking income, generally they're not 100% in the market. And so usually you have a portion of your money that's in some kind of fixed income or safe. And so that might be for the typical client, if they're in a 60-40, 40% in cash. Well, if you're taking a 4% withdrawal, that's like 10 years of income that you can live on that fixed income portion that you would, before you would need to jump into the market money. So the question that I turn around is, "Hey, do you think the market will be better in 10 years?" Okay, yeah, probably. If it's even 6 months or a year, then why are you trying to time it? Because most likely you're going to be wrong. And that's my experience, is no matter what you do, you're going to be wrong. You either wish you would have done all of it, you wish you would have pulled all your money out and then tried to time it, or you wish you would have never pulled any money out. And so, again, that's where we try to take that approach where, okay, let's maybe just move up and down on the ladder of risk rather than trying to time everything and jump in and out of the market.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah, that's really well said. So interesting. I like that 60-40 thing. And I think I like the hot or the frog in the hot boiling water too. I think that's a
Hmm.
really good, and the stepping stone approach and the where you meet your clients where they are. Um, I don't know. I can, and just from the CPCU thing, I can tell it's all kind of full circle and it really
Sure.
fits you. Um, well, speaking of financial advising here, what obstacles as a aspiring advisor might I expect or our viewers expect right off the gate? What are we looking out for? What do you want to stay wary of?
Sure. Um, I'll just say getting started in the business is hard. And the biggest thing is that it takes time. And that's with any business. It takes time to build a business worth having. And one of the big things in our business in financial services, it's all built on trust, and for good reasons. These are clients that trust you with one of their biggest nest eggs, or if anything, their biggest nest egg. So getting that trust, it just takes time. It takes time for them to get to know you, to be comfortable, and to feel confident working with you, and then ultimately building a relationship. You may build a relationship with someone for years or even decades before you see the fruits of that relationship when it comes to like the money that you make. And kind of like an example, if somebody's got all of their money in their 401k and that's where they're putting their money, if you don't aren't a part of the 401k that they're being offered, you're not getting paid anything. So again, you might have a relationship with somebody that you're building for years and years until they take that job hop, till they retire, and then that's a point where then you can financially actually be in on the case. But it takes time to build those relationships and for those kind of life events to happen where they come to you for that advice and to make money. And that's the biggest thing I could preach to any advisor is it just takes time. And that's why I think it's super important for young advisors to get plugged into like a team or a company that can help you grow. And by help you, I mean financially help you get along to where again, it takes time. I've had clients that I've worked with for years until they finally rolled money or they rolled a lot more money for you to actually make some money going forward.
Mhm. Okay, got it. Patience is key. And
Hmm.
I have some conversations with friends who are, thinking about starting solo off rip and everything. And like we don't even know how to start those conversations. We don't even know like what that looks like. But then, we talk, oh, like but like being in a team would be so helpful. And I think the big piece there is just being like honest with yourself and like you said, the financial aspect. Like you gotta get help financially,
Hmm.
presumably before you can get going really for yourself. So
Yeah, and starting's really tough because again, you're starting from ground zero, and you can make great money in our industry in our business, but it takes time to build up business and collect assets for your clients and for that eventually to be a revenue for you. Some revenue that you can make, it might be quicker or upfront, but it might hurt you in the long run. You have some that might pay you more as you're going right now. It would be like your advisory business and that type of thing. But again, you've got to build those, and it takes a while for those to become an actual income that you can actually live on. And again, that's the time aspect. It just takes time to be able to grow and have a sustainable income from the job.
gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. And just moving on to the last question here. Any piece of advice that you really want to hammer home to the viewers or anybody who's even slightly interested in wealth management? They think you're a cool guy, had a good conversation. What do you got?
Um, you know, there's not a lot of stuff I'd want to change about my career because when you're looking back, it's hard to say some of those moments when things weren't going well. As I look back, were actually good for me to experience, especially as a young advisor. Um, one thing I can say that I wish I got out there, I wish I got out there sooner. I wish that, it's going back there's a lot of red tape in our industry about what information can go out when it comes to social media, blogs, articles, podcasts, videos. Um, but when I jumped into creating content for that kind of stuff, I felt like my business turned around, got more professional uh, influence, I guess you could say, not only in the industry, but then through my peers. Um, but again, like I said earlier, most people just don't have the advisor or the knowledge that a young advisor has. And you don't have to be an advisor who's done it for 40 years to create content. We live in an age where all this information you have or ever want to know is at your fingertips. Tap into that. Be the light to help somebody when it comes to their financial life. You have the ability to do that. You can do that through social media, through podcasts, through videos. Again, there are some red tape that you got to go through, and it's not a super fun process, but it is for the betterment of you, just so that way you don't get sued or anything like that. Um, but I would say if I could go back and kind of look back at where my business, I guess, kind of took a turning point is when I started really diving into that. It took a while. It certainly did, and you're not going to get paid directly from those videos or podcasts, at least not for a long time. But at least it starts to build some notoriety, and it gives a free access for somebody who's interested in your services. They can say, okay, how can I get to know who Connor Bauserman is? They can go to my podcast and listen to over 24 hours of podcasts if they want. They can go on and read my blogs that I've written or financial articles that I've written. There's different ways that they can get to know me that doesn't cost them anything. And then they can feel more confident and feel like they get to know me. So that kind of starts the relationship, even though I might not have ever said hi or hello to you. So it's a cool way that you can kind of get yourself out there and allow yourself to continue to build as a business.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like social media is such a hot and cold topic, I feel like, in this industry. And
Hmm.
I've heard people say, like like one thing I would do is decrease your digital footprint right before you get into the industry or whatever. But then I also hear, not even just from you, where people are like, the one thing that probably got me to where I am is making those like silly Instagram videos or whatever that are like actually informational. And
Hmm.
then people reach out to me, and that's how I got business. And
Sure.
so it's, I don't know, it's such a hot potato, I feel like, and it's such a weird thing to.
Yeah, that's where like maybe some things like your personal accounts versus like a business account. I kind of took the business account route, and created like a business Facebook page,
Mm,
compared to just doing it all on my personal page. Not that I like have any crazy videos or pictures or anything that I wouldn't want people to see, but some people might, if you're coming from a frat or something and you've got these crazy videos or pictures, maybe that's not the right look, um, but certainly getting yourself out there and leveraging that aspect, because for the most part it's free. That's a big thing, is people want to talk about marketing and this and that. If you spend the time, and for me that was the big thing, and the big pull for me, it was, as a young advisor, I might have a lot more time than I have money. So it's a perfect opportunity for me to jump in and create content. Doesn't really cost a whole lot. Maybe it is a lot of time and time consuming, but it wasn't like I had to fork out thousands of dollars for quote unquote marketing or referrals and that type of thing.
got it. Well, really good comments on social media and everything, but anything else you want to add? Any closing comments here?
No, like I said, if you are looking to get into the industry, just making sure you're starting off in the right place. I think that goes a long way. There's a super high failure rate in our industry, and it's not because I feel like a lot of people are bad advisors. It's because they just got in the wrong circumstance. Um, and again, the industry and your career, it takes time. People aren't going to just start in the industry and become super wealthy overnight in just 1 or 2 years, generally. It takes usually years and if not decades to be able to build a business. So just starting that with the right frame of mind that it takes time is super important.
Awesome. Well, Connor, thank you so much for coming on the MSU WMA podcast. We really, really appreciate it, and your perspective is golden. So, thank you, and hopefully we get to talk to you again sometime soon. All right? Of
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it.
course.
If you enjoyed the discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The Spartan Journal podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. The Spartan Journal news team releases a newsletter every Monday morning comprised of financial literacy and the week's market updates. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSUWMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSU WMA or Spartan Journal podcasts is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.